up, guys? This is the Boston Mass, and today I have a very special interview that this is important to me because just recently there was a show, a local show, and my buddy here did the show, and he caught a lot of flack, and rightfully so. You know, I have my own opinion on these things. I was actually a judge at this event, and it is what it is. I wanted to delve deep into this to see what goes on in the mind of this man and what makes him tick, what makes him do things like this, and what it is, how he goes about it, how he feels about it, how he feels about you, the viewer, the fans, and your opinions. A lot of you guys are like, what an asshole, he shouldn't have been allowed on stage, he's a jerk off, he shouldn't, you know, this and that. And you know, the truth of the matter is I've known this guy for 15 years. And he's never been nothing but a gentleman. He's actually very intelligent. He runs his own business. He has a very successful personal training company. He preps people for shows. What you see is not always what you get. You can't judge a book by its cover. You've heard that before. This couldn't be a greater example. He's a great guy. So I wanted to get into the mind of this guy and bring it to you. Like I said, I don't agree with it. I'm completely against synthol or sight enhancement and all those things. You know, I'm a bodybuilder. I compete against guys who do it. I think, you know, they should be marked down. They should, a guy who's got synthol in his shoulders and now has wider shoulders than me shouldn't beat me. But my opinion isn't what this is about today. I want to learn from this guy. I want to get his opinion. And I think it's really interesting. So without further ado, this is Gerry Blais. He is an NPC competitor. He's been competing for 30 years. He did his first show 30 years ago. And what show was it?
I was in the Marine Corps, and it was a NPC sanctioned show called the Cherry Point Invitational. I ended up winning the overall in my first show.
Yeah. Now you're pretty accustomed to winning. You've won the show we just did last weekend, the New England's. Gerry actually won the overall in 2001.
Yes, yes.
So this guy has a great physique and had a dynamite physique. He was, you know, competing against my older brother back in the 90s and doing quite well, probably beating his ass, you know.
No, I wouldn't say that.
But he was good, and so let's not sugarcoat anything. That was before the arms.
Right.
Okay? Now, I knew about this guy before I ever knew about Greg Valentino, the guys whose arms exploded, you know? And, you know, so when I saw Greg, I'm like, that's pretty wacky. I know a guy just like that, you know? And they're both very similar in the fact that you don't hide it. You don't hide from it.
No, I'm not ashamed of it.
You're open to discussing it. You'll tell the story. Yeah. I mean, it's really hard to hide that. So you can't hide anything.
No, I mean, I'm not ever trying to hide it. I mean, like you said, it is what it is, you know? When I initially started doing it, it was like I told you, it was like 13 years ago, you know? What happened was when I won that show in 2001, I decided I wasn't going to go further in bodybuilding. I could have gone to the nationals and kept going and kept going. I decided I didn't want to go that route. I wanted to go more professionally into more contest prep, training people. So I thought, what do I have to lose? You know, so I started experimenting with it. It was like a year after that 2001 win, and I just, a couple of years, like maybe a year and a half of doing it consistently went by, and you know, it's addicting at first. You know, you like the feel of it, you like the attention. Then you start putting things into perspective and realize this is counterproductive as far as bodybuilding goes, and you do receive a lot of negative attention from it. lot of negative attention. And at that point, I realized I have to stop this. This is crazy. And so I decided to do another show in 2004, and then all the bad media started happening. But by that point, the damage was done. There was nothing I could have done, you know? At the time, the science behind synthol was that it was supposed to last only like 5 years.
So let me back up. When did you actually, that first time, say, I'm going to purchase this? Was it synthol? Was it pump and pose? Was it just regular gear? What was it? It was pump and pose when it first came out. It first came out, no one knew much about it. It was new. I'm very excessive compulsive with reading about information. I'm an information junkie. So I started reading up on it and reading the negatives, the positives. So I ended up like purchasing some, and the stuff wasn't cheap either at the time, you know. So I went, you know, it's 13 years ago. I can't remember this exact specifics, but I remember trying it for the first time, and you know, you don't know what to expect. But what happens is if you're jamming some sort of needle in your arm, you're going to feel some initial inflammation. And you don't, there's a big misconception with that stuff that you see things right away. It actually takes a while before you use it consistently that you start to see a little bit of size difference. And then over time, through a lot of painful inflammation, you do start to see a little bit, people start noticing, you know, what have you been doing? And then you like the attention at first. But then you start getting the negative reactions from people. And then back then there wasn't a lot of negative reaction, so to speak, like now, like the stuff you see online and all the comments and all that, because people didn't know much about it. Now let me ask, when you first did it, did you do 1 cc? Did you do 2, 4, 3, 5? What? And then did you do it every other day? Did you do it twice a week? Did you do it every day?
It was more of an everyday thing, basically. Like I said, I'm a knowledge junkie, and so I know, like yourself, studied up on anatomy and physiology, so I knew, you know, it made more sense to me to hit the different regions of the arm from different angles rather than always hit one point all the time, because obviously that's going to grow and look abnormal. So I rotated it from, you know, outer head, inner head, outer head, inner head. Basically every day was a different region.
And did you have any help? Like, you can reach those areas?
I was able to do it myself somehow. I don't know how I was able to do it, but I somehow achieved getting back there a certain way. And then, you know, it is monotonous. It became painful and aggravating at times. And, you know, again, you start getting the attention from people, and you start rationalizing and justifying the pain and the uncomfortableness with the attention, and you know, it's an addicting kind of thing. But eventually common sense kicks in, and then you realize this is crazy. I can't keep doing this. You know, it was about 1.5 years in after that last show, you know, that I stepped on stage, and I thought initially I got DQ'd, but they placed me like 7th, I think, that year. And I'm like, I can't keep doing this. If I do want to keep competing, I can't do this, you know.
So the backlash was relatively immediate. You won in 2001 with nothing in your arms. You come back in 2004 fully loaded, and you went backwards.
I mean, and on top of the fact that in that particular show, I decided I wanted to come in the top of the class, which I typically come in the low 180s. I came in around 198 that year. So not only I was bigger, and my arms looked ridiculous.
Okay. So you weren't 100% conditioned either.
I would say I was like 90% conditioned.
Okay.
Yeah. But I did it on purpose. I planned to come in bigger because I wanted to see how my body would look bigger, because I was so used to coming all the time like super.
Right. So now everyone's like, what is this guy thinking? Did he actually think he was going to win the show? What were you thinking heading into this show, what were your expectations? Did you think you were going to be judged accordingly? Did you think the judges were going to say, dude, this is way too obvious and we're not going to have it, and you just had a personal goal of getting on stage and being your best?
I honestly knew the outcome going in. I honest to God, this is 3 shows now where I knew for a fact this time that the judges weren't going to let me place. I knew. It was for about a good couple of years, I've been wanting to get back on stage one more time. I keep telling all my clients, you got one more fight left, you know. And I'm going to be 52 in July, so I wanted to do one more, you know. And I knew no matter how lean I got, I knew no matter how good of condition I was going to get in, the judges weren't going to let me place. I knew for a fact. I had people telling me, you know, you gotta prepare yourself for the flack you're gonna get bad comments. It's going to be ugly, and I didn't care. I just wanted to get on stage one more time. I want to look my absolute best. I mean, again, I can't undo the damage that I did from 13 years ago, but I can come in the best I can be condition-wise. And I knew I had to come in my absolute best condition ever, you know?
So, you keep saying 13 years ago.
Yeah.
Nothing has gone in these arms.
Not one single drop of synthol or gear at all in 13 years.
So what is it? Because we hear a lot of people, some of the pundits out there or experts
right.
have said that when using it, it will go away, the body will absorb it, or it'll break up and eventually go away. Now this is 13 years, that shit ain't going anywhere.
It's the synthol itself does get absorbed by the body and it rids the body. What's left after all the initial inflammation is scar tissue. It's scar tissue. Like it's mostly me and scar tissue, believe it or not. I mean, I've been working out all these years.
So there's some muscle in it.
There's muscle. If there were muscle in there, I wouldn't be able to work out. And I'm not a weak person.
So you can train arms,
all the time, all the time.
No pain.
Not at all. I enjoy doing arms. I actually had to stop. I actually cut way back on my arm training for this competition on purpose. So they would come in smaller. I tried to make them smaller, to bring my symmetry to somewhat of a normal condition. And the fact that I came down to the middle weights, they shrunk a little bit. But even at like 4.2% body fat at my lowest weight, they still are what they are. I can't change what I did all those years ago. I can't change the past.
Right.
You know?
Now, we all are familiar with that scene of Valentino pulling a pus-filled needle out of his arm. Do you ever have any experience with that? Any bad abscesses in the arm?
Never ever had anything like that, ever.
So you weren't using dirty needles like he was.
No.
He would drop it on the floor and blow it up, put it back in there. You know. So you've been pretty lucky in the sense that you didn't have any abscesses, infections, or even injuries.
Never.
Now, is that the only spot you put it? In the arm, or you put it in the shoulders,
No,
you put it in the triceps?
I just put bis and tris. That's it. All those years.
Okay.
That's all.
So
That's it. I couldn't. Growing up, those were probably my weakest points, you know, as far as working out goes. I mean, I always had a good back, chest. I've always had to work on my legs, but those were my weakest points. So of course, those are the areas that I focused on. You know, and then all of a sudden you start getting a couple of inches on there, and then you're like, okay, this is great. But too much of a good thing is a bad thing, you know.
yeah. Now you're a character. Then we're going to go back to some stories that some people might find interesting.
Don't believe everything here.
Yeah, right? And he is a character. And he was actually quite close with one of our wrestling superstars, biggest characters. You dated a woman named Joni Lauer.
Joni Lauer. Yeah.
And who is she?
She was WWF's China.
China.
Yeah.
And when did you meet her? How long did you see her?
I was doing some personal training up in this area, and she hired me to train her for her first fitness show. She was an aerobics instructor at the time, long before she even knew anything about wrestling at all. She was up in this area teaching aerobics, and she wanted to do her first show, so she called up a friend. That friend called me, I met with her, I started training her, we started seeing each other. I started just getting her bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger, and before you know it, she started getting noticed. And I mean, it's a long, long, drawn-out story.
Yeah, and the rest is history.
The rest is history, correct, yeah.
So you became, after that, you were like, I'm going to be a character too.
I've always been somewhat of a character my whole life. I grew up a very shy kid, but then eventually when I overcame that shyness, I've learned to capitalize on it a little bit, you know. I mean, my clients would tell you that I'm not a boring trainer, you know.
All right.
All right, this is the Boston Mass. Thanks again for watching. Now, if you're not subscribing, subscribe now. Tell all your friends to subscribe. If you haven't, do it now. All right?